to episode number 70. We've got the great RJ Bohac in the house today, and you might know RJ's name from being around here. He's got his picture all over town.
Billboards.
And, buying and selling stuff. And Blake, it made me think, we got a real estate guy in the house. It made me think, what's the worst deal you've ever made? You got any fun, stories about making just a bad deal or something you were selling or buying that you just really messed up on?
Okay.
Any fails?
I don't have any. It's not a bad deal, but this is fairly recent.
Okay.
So this involves a transaction. I've recently sold and bought another kayak. Those are the kind of deals that I'm not. Yeah, I'm not like selling houses or anything. But I was going to meet this guy in Tyler to pay for the kayak that I was purchasing, and had a rather large wad of cash that I was carrying with me to pay for this.
Man, you are a worship pastor.
And yeah, well, I had to sell some other stuff to be able to afford it. So anyway, on the way in, I'm running a little early, and so I stopped at Academy, and I was like, I'm gonna run in here real quick.
Of course.
But I was like, I don't want to take this cash in with me, and I don't really want to leave the cash sitting out in the open in my truck. And I looked over, and I was like, oh, there's a lock on my glove box. Never used it before.
That's what that's there for.
That's what it's there for.
Kayak deals.
Yeah. So I popped the cash, envelope of cash in the glove box, locked it, went inside, got a couple things, came back out, put my key into the glove box lock, would not unlock. And I'm like looking at my watch, like, I've got to meet this guy in 10 minutes. I have the cash. He's driven here from Dallas. Like, I can't be like, oops, sorry, dude, And so I'm like ripping open my glove box in the cat. I look like I'm breaking into my own truck, like trying to
Police show up.
Yeah.
Sir?
And I finally popped the latch off of it and get in there and get it.
So you did. You broke into your own
truck. My
truck.
heart rate was significantly elevated. And so once I got to the place where I was meeting the guy, we unloaded the kayak off of his car and put it in the back of my truck, and we're just kind of talking, and I was like, man, this is kind of awkward, long, small talk. Like, why is he still here talking to me? I realized that, I had forgotten to give him the cash. I'm just sitting there, and finally he goes, payment? I was like, let me just explain to you. I'm, so flustered right now. Let me just explain to you what just happened to me. And he understood. But that was recent.
So you were pretty rattled.
I was pretty rattled. I was nervous
gosh.
about not ever being able to get my glove box open again. So, by the way, and RJ, I know you have a Toyota Tundra.
Yeah.
That's a
Don't
thing.
lock it.
That's a thing, apparently, because when I was in the parking lot scrambling trying to figure out how to get in my glove box, this apparently happens to people all the time. And they say if you lock it and it won't unlock with your main key, get your spare key, because it's something to do with the wear on the key. And sure enough, when I got home, I did it, opened it right up with a spare key. So.
Well, that's what we're here for, folks. Sweet tea and coffee.
Man, I'm stressed just thinking about that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We don't only tell great stories, but we also help you with your Toyota Tundra
if you have a
problems.
Toyota Tundra, Drew Middlebrook, Andrew, you guys just know that. You're going to need to
there
keep
it
that
is.
spare key
Okay,
handy.
that one was free. Hey, let's start the episode. Okay, well, as I said, we've got RJ Bohac here with us, and excited to have you here, man. This is fun. We're excited to do this interview, but we always have to start. The podcast is called Sweet Tea and Coffee, and so the battle lines are drawn, and I think it's pretty lopsided at this point, wouldn't you say? I mean, dramatically lopsided. There's a few people that
I just don't think it's a fair question.
It's not a fair fight. It's not a fair
it's
fight.
not sweet tea or coffee. It's sweet tea and coffee.
What are your feelings about sweet tea? Do you line up on one side of that, or
Definitely the tea, 100%.
Oh,
yeah, see,
right.
Put one in the tea column.
Check it off. Yep.
Blake's got his.
I've got my Raisin Cane's tea here today.
Not a coffee guy at all.
No coffee guy at all. So
Okay.
All right.
I like the Chicken Express.
Oh man, that stuff will knock you out. It's sweet.
I remember the first time I had Chicken Express tea.
Yeah.
I mean, you just go, whoa, this is another level.
It has put me in pain more than one time.
No doubt. It's good stuff for sure.
How often is sweet tea just on special occasions? Or?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and every once in a while you got a little, you got to have a little taste of it, but not terribly often. But yeah, trying to give up a little bit of caffeine as well. So but it's good for sure. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
No coffee.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's still lopsided, but RJ helped you out there a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
RJ, tell us, man, how did you end up in Nacogdoches. What's your background? Where did you grow up? What did parents do? What was life like growing up?
So I was born and raised in Austin. I lived there until I was about 17, and then we moved to Hemp Hill, which is about an hour east of here, which is a teeny tiny little town. So when I was 17, I went from a high school class of the largest high school class in Texas at the time at Round Rock High School.
Wow.
And then moved to, I think there was about 900 in that class, and moved to Hemp Hill, and there was about 40 in my class. Yeah. So it was a dramatic change. But anyway, my mom and dad, my dad was actually the director of the crime lab for Austin Police Department for 40 years, and my mom was a counselor. So I, had a great upbringing. We had a big farm, and so grew up with cows and, row crops and all of that. So it was really kind of a cool deal.
Now, hang on. Cows and row crops in Round Rock?
Well, yeah, a little bit farther in central Texas. So we had about an hour east of there. And so we had, had a bunch of cows and grew up with that and loved that for sure. Sometimes I wish my girls had that because it's just a kind of a simpler, cool life. But anyway, thoroughly enjoyed growing up seeing that and being a part of that. So super cool.
So what's that? I mean, yeah, that's a big change.
It is.
Austin to Hemp Hill. You said you're 17?
Yep. So I moved and anyway, it was just a totally different deal, So Round Rock was growing and booming, and like Austin, and then you moved to Hemp Hill, and it was very slow paced.
It's not.
It's
not growing and booming. Yeah.
So it was definitely different, but it was cool. Made a lot of lifelong friends there that I still talk to today, and so that part's really cool. And we go back and visit. Like I said, it's only an hour from here, so we go and visit. And actually, my mother and father-in-law live there, so we actually get back quite often. So. Yeah, really was a change at 17. Looking back now, it was probably a blessing just because it was a slower pace and just opportunities just to kind of slow down. At 17, it's always it's a little bit of a struggle. Any kids just trying to figure out who they are and what they're doing and the pace and everything else. And so it was. And looking back now, at that time, I didn't think it was, but now seeing it, it was definitely a blessing. So
yeah.
Anyway, so grew up there, graduated high school there, moved to College Station, and then started in real estate. And so I've been in real estate for 20-something years. But
as a college student, you started?
Yeah. I started as an assistant and got my license and just kind of started doing that and just fell in love with it, So I've been doing it forever and ever now. It's 20-something years, but just kind of watched, College Station grow and do that. And then my wife came along. Then Tiffany came along, and we decided to move to Nacogdoches, and so we've been here 13 years now. So
okay. Go back to falling in love with real estate. What does that look like? What does it mean? What about it is so engaging to you?
Well, a lot of it for me is the people. I like the architecture and the houses and all that, but it's really the people. One thing about it is you don't have you meet so many different types of people, and that's what I like. And so, you get opportunities to just to get to know them. I mean, it's a lot of times it's a really personal thing because a lot of people are buying a house and spending a lot of money or whatever it may be, and so it's a big life change for them, and so. Kind of walking through that process with them is always really cool, and so you get to see them with maybe their first house and they're just had a baby and they're newlyweds or what, those are the funnest, those are super exciting. And then, you go through just different aspects of their life as maybe they're getting older and they're downsizing or whatever it may be, but you just get to kind of be part of their life, or they're moving from somewhere far off, moving here and they're scared or worried or whatever that may be. And so you get a lot of raw emotion with that, which is cool. So I really enjoy that part of it for sure. It was the relationships is like I always say. You gain a lot of relationships with people, and it's just a fun deal. And then obviously the houses are fun. You get to go in different houses and you see different styles and different architecture, whatever. That's intriguing too, for sure. So, but. No, definitely. Just getting to know people, and you get some lifelong friends out of that deal too. So
yeah, I mean, you make a good point. When people are, you said that you experience a range of people's emotions. It's like there's times when moving is the most exciting thing.
Yeah.
And then there's times where it's the exact opposite. Like you're moving and it's a terrible situation, so I imagine you do kind of get people in some really vulnerable,
you do
life-changing kind of moments.
You do some counseling for people. It's
I was going to say, yeah.
You really do. We laugh and always say, I'm going to send a bill for counseling sometimes or whatever, it's kind of joking, but you just, you get to know them, you get to know their kids or their situation or whatever it may be. And so, a lot of times you end up knowing their whole family. You may sell one person a house and then their brother buys it anyway. So then you end up getting to know the whole family. So that's cool too. So
Now you mentioned that your mom was a counselor.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And now you are,
I guess,
counselor / real estate agent.
It feels like that some days. I promise.
Is that where that comes from?
Yeah.
Just the people part of it. Is that a lot of your
for
mom?
Sure. Yeah, my mother and aunt were both counselors, and so I grew up really watching them, and they were forever and ever, like 30 or 40 years, in this public school system, and so I got to really watch that, and just how they talk to people and be compassionate and that sort of thing. So it was really cool to watch that with them, and so I hope that I honor that a little bit with them, just being able to, just to be able to talk to people, and just sometimes just listening is really cool. That's all people want, or maybe some advice, but it ends up it becomes a blessing. It's crazy how it really is, but it truly is. So yeah.
Well, we do ask serious questions around here at some point, but I got to know, what's a ballpark? How many houses you've looked at in your 20-year?
Gosh. I would say we probably look at, how many houses I go in? Let's just say on a week, probably, let's say 20 in a week at least. And so then you say that times 52, that's it gets a lot.
Yeah, let's do it. 20 times 52 times 20 years. You've seen 20,800 houses. Exactly. Exactly. Okay.
That's probably pretty true.
In 20,800 houses, you're bound to have seen some strange things.
Oh, gosh.
You got to give us an insight of a moment where you walk in a house and you go, whoa, I've never seen that before.
I've got two. I've got one. I got two. I've got one was a house that had I'll start with the less crazy, and then we'll go to the most crazy. Okay. So the less crazy, they had a house that had been built by some people, and it had a humongous water trough, like a cattle water trough, and in the bathroom they were using that as a bathtub, and so they had like plastic chairs in it. Now, it was a whole setup. They were trying to heat it some way. I don't remember now. It wasn't a regular hot tub. Regular water heater, but anyway, it was like, okay, that's not gonna praise. That's not gonna go well.
What's the
inspector
going to say?
Yeah, what's the inspector going to say for sure, and the appraiser and everybody else. But and then the other, they had a casket in the house, and so.
Okay.
Yeah, and so luckily it was not occupied. But
I was going to say that's the question everybody's asking: was it full or not?
Yeah, and so it's kind of an eerie feeling. They mentioned to you, there's a casket in the living room. You're going to show the house, and you have to let your people know as you're showing the house, hey, there's going to be a casket. I don't want to freak you out, but you can't not focus on that 100% as you're walking through the house.
Did they say why it was there?
I really don't even remember now, but it was just.
I just can't think of a legitimate
RJ,
reason.
you got to give us more than that. Did you sell that house?
No, that house did not sell. No. So people have some crazy stuff.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah. It's a fun job. It's never boring. Every day's your schedule is all over the board. So that part of it's cool too. So
that's crazy. Well, okay. So while we're still kind of in your growing up and background, what was faith like? Did you grow up in a Christian home? What was your journey to becoming a Christian? How'd that look?
So when I got saved when I was 12, and so went through adolescence and all that, and knew the Lord and walked close with the Lord. And then when I turned 21, my mother got ill. She had cancer, and so that was a really big change in my life. And so I went. She got ill, and so we started taking care of her. And so for 9 years, we took care of her. My mother and my aunt and my mainly were her caregivers. And so. For me, I think about that and I reflect on that a lot. That was a time in my life when I saw the Lord work a lot.
This would have been when you were living in College Station?
It was. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we were traveling a lot. She was in Austin, and eventually she ended up moving and living with me her last few years just because of her health. And but it was, for me, that was a really important time. Like I said, I reflect on a lot. I go back to that a lot because I saw the Lord work. It was really cool. Just the things, and I'm able to share that with other people now. But I just saw how the doctors worked and how the Lord's miracles. Again, you hear these stories of people saying there's no medical explanation why this was like this or whatever this was. And so we saw that from time to time. And so, having the Lord be there and walk with us in that time was just amazing. And so and then unfortunately she passed away, and then my aunt got ill, who I was very close to. It was like my second mother, and we did kind of the same thing. I mean, we took care of her for several years, for 3 or 4 years. And so again, that was really a really special time just to, I mean, it was a sad time, but it was also a special time just to see the Lord doing these wonderful things in our lives, and just really just comforting us, as we pray for that a lot and think about that a lot, and then just actually have that, the Lord walking beside you and with you was amazing. And so anytime, you tend to move in your life and you have a struggle or something, I always try to go back to that and say, you know what, He didn't forgive me then, He didn't forget me then, He didn't, and so it's been it was, looking back now again, is a blessing as well. So
we've had the privilege of obviously interviewing a lot of people, and one of the things that we hear a lot is that, and the circumstances vary from person to person, but there's moments like that where somebody's faith goes from kind of it's genuine, obviously, and there's a relationship with the Lord, and it's genuine, but it kind of exists on a certain level of depth. And then you go through something like that, and your faith just goes to a whole new level of depth. And people will describe it as like, the things that you said you believed and you knew were true, but were kind of more theory. Those things became,
you see it,
tangible, and you see it and you live it. What were some of those things for you during that stretch?
It just I don't know if I can put my finger on just one particular thing, but it's just the fact that, for me especially, something I go back to a lot is just, my mother was such a role model to me because of her faith in the Lord. She never wavered. She never worried. She never anything else. So I take that more than I do anything, as being a parent for my kids. Do I exude that for them, or am I living my life for the Lord like she did? She never was worried a day. She never had any fear or any concern. She just knew the Lord, and she knew that. And we would pray a lot, and she would talk about that a lot. Even when she was sick, she worried more about me, and because I was 21, 22, the young, just making sure that I was making good life decisions, and all these sorts of things, and so it was. That's one thing that I really take away from that too, is just the fact that she just never wavered. I mean, she knew where she was going, and she was happy, and she obviously was ill, but she just knew that the Lord loved her and was going to take care of the situation. So it was truly remarkable to watch that. So.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday out at the soccer field, and there was a member of our community. Their families just experienced some pretty unbelievable tragedy, and this lady was sharing the story with me that she and a group of friends had gone over to just to check on this family, and one of the people that went with them wasn't a Christian, wasn't a believer, and when they got there, the expectation, obviously this news is just broke. This family is in total distress and brokenhearted, and you don't know really what are you going to walk into when you walk in. And they walked in, and this lady just kind of very, very, very abruptly spoke about how this is not going to be something that alters our faith.
Yep.
God will bring us through, and just testified of the goodness of God. I mean, this is in the aftershock of the hardest thing they'll ever walk through. And she's testifying about the goodness of God in it, and God's faithfulness. And the lady was telling me that in the car ride on the way back, how deeply that impacted this lady that didn't know Jesus. Just where does that come from? And you're right. It's like when you see somebody's faith, when it's really going down, when they're in the middle of something, and you watch them follow Jesus.
That strength is amazing.
It impacts you though. It's stuff like you're saying you remember forever. Wow. So that was a long stretch. I mean, if you're talking about taking care of your mom, and then
it's 13 years.
Wow.
It was 13 years, and so it was it was an interesting time. I'm thankful for that opportunity. You don't when you're that age, you don't really understand why that's happening, or and you struggle with that. I mean, I struggle with it. I mean, you get angry, you get a lot of emotion that goes along with that. With to the Lord, like, why is this happening, or this or that, and so it was, but it's as you've preached on it, and we've heard about this, and you read it as well, is that the Lord is shaping you for a reason and doing these things for that, and so He's molding you for that reason, and so I believe that, and it's at the time it's so hard to see and understand. But you look now, like especially for me with my kids, I look at that and that's what really drives me, is just to make sure that they know the Lord, and that they're good people, and they're doing the right things, and so that's really what really drives me for sure in that situation. So
you said you and Tiffany met during that time, right?
Yeah, she walked through that with me too.
Well, yeah, that's kind of crazy. So you did not have the normal college experience.
No, it was a little odd. Yeah.
You did not have that normal 20-year-old experience, and then you meet somebody, and you guys get married in that time.
No, we didn't. We were just dated during that time. Okay. But she was there with me throughout the whole process. She was a trooper. I mean, she understood. I mean, she was a believer and knew the Lord as well. And it strengthened her. She saw it too. I mean, she understood, and it changed her thought process and beliefs and things like that too. So it was good for both of us, and so it definitely was a trying time for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so I assume that's obviously something unique to go through in a dating relationship as well. I mean, how did that impact your relationship? Was that, I mean, going through such a difficult thing together?
Yeah. And she lived here in Nacogdoches, and so, like I said, we were in College Station, so a lot of weekends, she would travel to see us, and so that added impact on that and other things, and so it definitely, I guess she really loved me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, there's a depth there.
You get tested, so when it's time to get married, you feel like, hey, we've crossed some bridges together and some hurdles, and so hopefully, anything that life throws at you, you can kind of finagle that and figure that out, and say, hey, Lord, you got us through this other. We know this other stuff hopefully is minor than that, or whatever it may be, and you can get us through that again, or whatever, and so it's definitely interesting time. I haven't focused on it in a while, so thinking about it, it's kind of cool to go back there and just think about that.
She's from Nacogdoches.
Well, she lives from Pineland, so she's about
So how did y'all meet?
So we just had some friends that just kind of put us together. It's one of those deals they just called, and so she called me one day, and we went on a date. We went to our first date. I thought I was going to take her somewhere special, and her favorite place was Chick-fil-A. So.
Come on.
So I looked out. She didn't want any fine food, anything real expensive. She said, I want Chick-fil-A. I was like, here we go. That's the right one. And she still loves Chick-fil-A, so that's usually a pretty good date night too. So, but anyway, we're very blessed in our relationship too, and so we've been together for 20-something years now. My gosh, and we've been married for 13. So yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. Just Chick-fil-A, like it's just like let's go Chick-fil-A. I mean, it's fast food, so the date's pretty short unless you're. I mean,
well, they wear me out with some Chick-fil-A. My girls love it too, so we eat a lot of Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, you get some ice dream afterwards. You make a whole line of it.
Yeah, for sure. Usually we do is take a picnic and take it to the park, so it's kind of cool. We haven't done that in a while, but usually we do that. So it's kind of try to be a little romantic.
Well, now that you've told the story on the podcast, you're gonna owe a Chick-fil-A date night for sure.
I think I'm due for one. It's been too hot, so we have to do it now that it's cooled off.
No kidding. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so you meet Chick-fil-A. It all. I mean, that's when when that's when when she says Chick-fil-A, this is the one. It happens early. So how did you guys end up? What was the process getting married? Did y'all originally stay in? You said you stayed in College Station, or did you come here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so eventually when we decided to get married, moved here, and so that's been, like I said, it was at 13 years, and so we've just started our family in a little small house out in the country, and it's been cool. And so she actually has been, of all things, and people laugh at me now that she's actually been working with me the last couple of years, that was a little, everybody says, how do you work with your wife every day? But it's been cool. we really enjoy that. It's just kind of in a different phase of our life now, and so it's been fun just to kind of enjoy that and seeing each other every day. And we don't get tired of each other, and so we're good friends, and so it's cool to enjoy being around each other. So.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So go back then. How did you fell in love with real estate? And I mean, I guess early on you knew this is what I want to do. What's the process? How does somebody grow in that? Do you eventually you get your license? You start selling houses. Now you kind of run your own thing, but I mean, you don't just wind up there. So what's that journey like?
No, and it's tough. I mean, that's what I try to tell people too. We have a lot of people, young people or people that want to get their license and come and want to do that, and so we kind of have to walk through that. I mean, it's a struggle too, because it takes a lot of years to get your name out and do your thing and your reputation again, and so that we don't do a lot of advertising for ourselves, and so it's mainly just word of mouth, and so again, being in a small town, you have to have a good reputation and do the right thing by people. And so that's the biggest thing, too, is just 90% of it's word of mouth. Oh, you sold somebody a house, blah, blah, my aunt or uncle, and I want to buy a house or whatever. And so just that, it takes a lot of years and a lot of, repetition and, grinding it out and trying to do the right thing always, and making sure that people are, best interest is at heart. That's what I really try to do. And that shines through for people and understands. And so that's, yeah. But
you talked about just the moments in people's lives where you meet them. It's in the goods and the bad, everything in between. We talk a lot about people and try to really encourage people to see their workspace. Where do you live and work and play? And seeing that as a mission field, seeing that as this, there are countless opportunities that you have every day to share the gospel and share the love of Jesus. I imagine that you have some unique opportunities. How have you worked to integrate your faith into what it is that you're doing? I imagine you have opportunities to share the gospel.
Sure.
I mean, what does that look like for you? How do you approach that?
Oh, that's super exciting for me. That's something that I really embrace. That's something I really think about a lot. And so, like, for example, last year it was just the Lord just works in crazy ways sometimes. And so, like last year, I actually had. It just was completely coincidental, or it was the Lord doing that. Don't say coincidental, but it was that I had 11 widows that I dealt with.
Wow.
And so you think about, serving the Lord and doing deaconship and doing all that with, and it just happened to be that way and so being able to for me, especially, that's just what's fresh in my mind. Last year having the opportunity as these ladies had, recently lost their husbands or whatever the situation may be, but be able to help them walk through a really big, hey, look, we're selling our house, we're selling the things, and it was super emotional, a lot of tears shed, and being able to really walk them through that and comfort them and know that they, were doing the right things and in doing that sort of thing it was a blessing for sure. Being able to be that person for those people was amazing. Being able to say, look at when the house is finally sold or whatever it is, and they can look back and say, thank you for walking through that process with me. I didn't want to do it alone and that sort of thing. And so being able to kind of walk hand in hand with them, that's just what's fresh on my mind for sure. We have so many of opportunities, as people. Like we say, as counselors, a lot of times we do that a lot, as people, maybe marriages or kids or whatever it may be, and being able just to maybe lend an ear or, give an opportunity just to kind of give a little bit of a testimony or something like that to them is tremendous. And we meet so many different people. And so it truly is a blessing for sure.
So was that something that from the very beginning, I mean, you started out at such a young age doing real estate. Is that something that from the very beginning you felt very comfortable and natural with? Or is that, the integration of your faith and what you were doing, is that something that you had to learn to embrace over time? What was the process like for you to go, okay, I can be bold and courageous in my faith in this space? How did you learn to do that?
And that just, again, I think as you're, probably young in faith and, young in a business, whatever, you don't have a lot of confidence. And so being able to, with time, coming with confidence, knowing, hey, look, I can really share the gospel with somebody and they're not going to, beat me up or whatever, what I'm saying, or be really rough or whatever it is, being able to say, hey, look, this is, the Lord's at work at this or whatever it may be. And then it just kind of changes their thought process or whatever. And so that's, being confident and being able to say those things and being genuine and they're really believing that you're saying that and meaning that. And I think that's important too. And so, and again, that just for me, it just took some time just to be able to say those things, or have the the Lord puts. I feel confident the Lord puts these opportunities in front of you, but having the confidence to be able to step out there for the Lord and say those things too. You know what I'm saying? That's a big deal too, because there's plenty of opportunities. I think we all get them every day, just sitting at the. I always think about this, like sitting at the car wash place, waiting in your car to get washed, and you're sitting there, and you're never going to see those people again. You're only there for 5 minutes, but you just never know when the interaction with that person may be a big deal too. And so, obviously with the house situation, it always tends to be more raw, more, they have more time. You spend more time with them, so you get to know them a little better. But again, just having the confidence as there's kind of a shelf let out there that you jump out there and say, hey, look, let me talk to you about this, about the Lord, and or whatever it is, or let me pray with you, or hey, I see you're struggling. Let's take 5 minutes to say a little prayer, and sometimes, you just never know. And so, or just a kind word even sometimes, and it's so intriguing to me because you just never know. Every day is something new, with that, in that sense that you get an opportunity. So I really
that's
enjoy
interesting. That. It's interesting. You said there's two things going on there. One is there's a constant flow of opportunity.
Yeah,
and I think that's what sometimes people struggle with is not recognizing that constant flow of opportunity. Yeah. That every day there's probably going to be opportunity to impact somebody's life in some way. Yep. Some people just seem to be blind to that. The other part of the challenge is not only do I need to recognize opportunity, but then God's not going to make me. I've got there's a level of just obedience, and I have to take that step. Which of those was hardest for you? Was it recognizing the opportunity, or was it the taking the step?
I think definitely taking the step, the obedience in that, without question. It's just without question. I think that's it. I feel like you can recognize those opportunities a lot, and as you look for them more, I think that's even more opportunities. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just. Taking that obedience, just being able to, not trying to figure out how to talk to that person about that situation. And so, not being invasive or anything like that, but just being able to say, hey, look, let's, or just being kind. And they realize, well, why are you being so kind in this situation? And then have that opportunity, they come back to you and say, well, this is a really tense situation and you were just very calm or very nice. What's different about that? And being able to say, my faith is what got me through this or whatever. And so there's plenty of opportunities there. But again, just taking that step a lot of times, it can be scary for sure. And so, but I believe the Lord puts those opportunities in your path for a reason too. And so, I think you have to be definitely have to be obedient and saying, hey, let's talk about the Lord or whatever it may be. So,
okay, so you're now you kind of run your own business. You're doing your own thing now. What was that process like of taking that step? Because I imagine there's all sorts of new challenges and responsibilities of a way of leading. I mean, there's a whole leadership component that's built into that. What's that journey been like for you as you've taken that step?
Well, and I've told quite a few people too, it for us going back and revisiting it and even going through it, I've never felt like we did. It was people say as the Lord kind of put stuff in your path and kind of walked you through it. Usually, as human beings, we're the doers. We want to do it. And we're just, it's kind of black and white. This is the step. This is the next step. And for us, it just seemed like the Lord really put it truly, and it sounds cliche, but put the right people in the right place at the right time for that situation. So it was just the craziest thing. Looking back at it now, you look and it's like, oh my gosh, how did that, it just miraculous, how did that really happen? How did that person just happen to be at the right place to whatever it may be, and so that was truly a blessing to say that. And so, at the same time, you feel like, hey, the Lord has got you here for a reason to do something. And so, you have to be obedient in that way, but definitely, it was stressful, but there's no doubt, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of things. Real estate's very unpredictable. And so being able to, it's been a peace about it, just knowing, hey, I don't know how to explain it. It's crazy, but it truly is a blessing. And I get to tell a lot of people about that because a lot of people ask me how did it start, how did it do, and be able to say, hey, look, the Lord just really, truly honestly took us by the hand and put that together. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. There's no way else to explain certain things, and so.
Well, okay, so I mean, your real estate company has pretty much become synonymous with this community. I mean,
trying to, yeah.
You cannot drive around this area without seeing the little white signs everywhere. And but at the same time, we talk about community. I feel like that you place a high value on like loving your community and being active and involved. Just talk to us a little bit about why that is so important to you, into your crew.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those deals. We love our community, the people in it, and so there's just so many opportunities there to love on other people, by either volunteering or doing different things like that. And so we really try to give back. It's not just about giving money or this or that, but it's about the time and really making sure that people understand that they know they're cared about and doing that sort of thing. That's what's really been our core value in that situation is we talk and again, the Lord has put the people in our office together. It's not really been us. And so, we end up having the same thought process and the same willingness to want to do those things. And so just, whatever it may be, if it's picking up trash on the road to anything in between, just really trying to make sure that this community is a better place, and making sure people are loved on and just really trying to, there's such a need in so many different situations in this community. And so trying to help fill some of those voids is a big deal too. So we just really try to make sure that, that show the love of the Lord. That's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
RJ, one of the things that we're talking about leadership, one of the things that I've discovered in just taking on a leadership role here is that leadership has a way of putting a gigantic magnifying glass on your issues,
it does.
On your weaknesses, and it challenges you, and I think challenges your faith in a lot of different ways, because it, like I said, it really highlights your character, and God uses it in a unique way, I think, to grow us.
Sure.
What would you say in taking this step in leadership in the community, in your business? What would you say that step has done in terms of challenging you and growing you in your faith, growing you as just a man of God? How has leadership created a depth to your life?
I definitely say without question, it's time. That's a really big one, because what ends up happening as you get more involved and get more things, you don't get the opportunities to meditate on the word in the morning or whatever it is, or being able to take the time to take a breath and say, you just go sit in your truck and pray for a minute, whatever it may be. And so you just get wound up more, tighter and tighter and faster about, I've got to go to this meeting, I got to do this, I got to do this and this and this. And then all of a sudden you look up and it's, hey, I haven't read my Bible like I should. I haven't, and then for me, I start thinking about, well, I haven't spent the time with my kids like I should. And so then then your family, not say fails, but it starts slipping. You're not taking the time with your kids like you should, or your wife, and doing those sorts of things. And so time is a really big deal. And so trying to manage that, and I feel like the devil can really distract you with all these other things, and just really mess your time up. And so that's something I really try to take a step back and think about. Hey, look, I've got to be conscious of making sure that I have my time in the morning to read my Bible or whatever I'm reading, to meditate on the Lord, and just really understand that I have that time and that relationship to grow that, because that can get out of whack really quick. And that's something it's scary to me, and it can be done. And it's happened at different points in my life that you can get off track pretty quick. And so that's something you have to be conscious of on a daily basis. And so we just think about the time frame is something I think about a lot.
Yeah, and managing those priorities, and
it is
making sure that they stay in the right place, because there's all sorts of things you could do.
Oh yeah.
But what should you do? Yeah. And that's challenging when there's demands on your time.
It is, for sure. And just making sure, like I said, that my time with the Lord is valuable, and then my time with my family is super valuable too. And so just making sure that those two are juggled correctly, and then the rest of the stuff will fall into place. And so that's something I constantly, I'll say battle, or think about, contemplate, I guess. But yeah. Yeah.
One of the things we like to do on this podcast is grab kind of something that has really stood out in the interview, and come circle back around to it, and kind of go, hey, as you're thinking about this, as you're walking away from this interview, here's something to think about. Really stood out to me is the conversation about opportunity and obedience There's opportunities that are constantly there, but we got to be obedient. We got to be courageous and step out there. Let's pretend there's a scenario. Somebody comes to you and says, man, my eyes are being opened to the opportunities. I'm realizing there's opportunities all around me, but man, I'm nervous about taking that step. There could be, there could be fallout. There could be pushback. I don't know what the cost is going to be. And I'm just afraid. That just makes me nervous. I think that's real. I think if we're honest, there's a lot of people that, just like you said, it's taken that step that makes me. How would you coach somebody? How would you encourage somebody that's like, I know that this opportunity is there and I need to do it, but I'm nervous. What would you say to them? How would you help them?
I think the easiest way to start is just, if somebody's struggling, whatever, just putting your hand on them and just on their shoulder and saying, hey, the Lord loves you. Just start with that, something simple. Just saying, hey, I just want you to know the Lord loves you. As people, maybe they're lonely or whatever it may be in their life, just say, hey, look, you're not alone. The Lord loves you. I love you. And whatever it may be, hey.
It's simple encouragement.
Yeah, just something
it's not complicated.
Yeah, just the Lord loves you. And just something like that. And people just, usually people just, it's not easily dismissed a lot of times, So a lot of people it's maybe a conversation starter. Maybe it's a thought-provoking thought. It's just that little seed that we always talk about, just a little seed to say, why did they say that? Or what's going on with that? Or does he really? Or why do you say that? Or whatever it may be. And then, that maybe spurs on a question. And so I think that's, a good way just to, as you see somebody else struggling or something like that, what's always hard is as you're sitting like at the car wash and somebody's sitting there, that conversation is always a little harder. But again, the opportunity will show up a lot of times too. And so it's just, again, jumping out there and just, saying, hey, what's going on in your life or whatever. So showing the love of the Lord, I think is cool.
Well, I love that, and I love that you can do that in the little things. I think part of the intimidation that people have when they think about engaging their workplace with the gospel is that I've got to have one conversation with this person, and we go all the way. Yeah,
it's like a very scripted thing, and that's right. We're going to walk through these passages, and this is how it's going to go down.
That's right. That's right. And the reality is, what you're saying is, no, don't overcomplicate it. Yeah. Just do the one small thing that's right in front of you, and then as opportunity continues to present itself, just keep doing the small thing. And I think we think
about that a lot. A lot of times you think, oh my gosh, I've got to quote all this scripture. I've got to know all this scripture, and I've got to know it just in this particular situation. How did the certain whoever in the Bible did it this way, and we're going to talk about it. No, you start with the simple stuff. Just saying that, knowing that the Lord loves you and that you're not alone, or whatever it may be, and starting there, and then even together, you can say, hey, look, let's sit down and figure out some scripture together, whatever that is, just starting that conversation. And so being able to start there is super important for sure. So like I said, it can be definitely scary and definitely intimidating, but once you engage that person, and a lot of times it's surprising how well, the Lord just kind of opens that door. So
that's amazing, man. RJ, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming around and sharing your journey, your story with us. I can promise you this: RJ loves people and loves to chat. If you see him around, chat with him, ask him questions.
Please do.
Follow up on this interview. We always have guests that say, "Man, it was so cool. I saw so and so in the hallway, and they asked me about something I said in the podcast." Cool. And so, reach out to RJ. He'd love to chat with you. He's on our men's ministry leadership team too.
He wants to talk to you.
So dudes, he wants to talk to you. And,
come see me, please.
Come see him. So, hey, we got some really great guests that are coming up. So this is our 70th episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like everyone's a milestone.
I don't know what we're going to do when we reach 100, but 70 is pretty good.
Well, we may be 70 by the time we reach 100. I don't know. This has been good though. But RJ, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. And hey, if you have feedback, if something RJ has said has prompted a thought or a question in you, or just something you want to say, hey, that really impacted me, we want to know about it. So reach out to us on any of our channels. You can email us, you can call us, you can bump us in the hallway, whatever you want to do. Friends of the pod, we want to hear from you. By the way, RJ is friend of the pod. He said 98% of the episodes he's seen. So next guest, a little bit of pressure on you. Yeah, that's right.
Been doing my homework.
So, all right, well, we'll see you next time. Adios.